Section 13 of the Green Forest Fairy Book. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Sim. The Green Forest Fairy Book by Loretta Ellen Brady. The Beggar Princess, Chapter 6, Part 2. Though the castle of this cruel king lay but a short distance from the entrance of the Westland Kingdom, the road that stretched between was filled with such sadness and sorrow that it was many a day before the princess stood at its gates. Little children struggled with heavy burdens, and when she had helped these, other little children with heavy burdens passed sadly down the same road. Women toiled unceasingly in the forest or drove the plough from dawn until dark. King Ironheart's soldiers saw to it that none idled. Yvonne had no coins to buy bread, and again she was forced to beg from door to door, but so willingly did she help those who laboured that the sad-faced women were glad to share with her their scant store. A Westland woman, noting the slippers of bark, asked her who she might be and from whence she came, to which the princess made the following reply: "In my country I am called Yvonne, the Beggar Princess. My father cast me off portionless because I would not wed to please him, and I seek the tyrant Ironheart to beg him quit the Westland Kingdom and to free from his dungeon Prince Godfrey, whom I love with all my heart." When the Westland women heard her reply, they marveled at her courage, but shook their heads and advised her to give up her quest. "You seek to move with pity one whose heart is cold as his name would say," they cried. "King Ironheart laughs at mothers' tears and takes pleasure in the wails of hungry children. Return to your home, O Yvonne, or this wicked king will enslave you with this sad land." "That I will not do," replied the princess firmly. "With courage and a good heart I have come hither to beg mercy of King Ironheart. If I fail, I fail, and here in bondage I shall remain with you who mourn Prince Godfrey, for he is lord of my heart." The princess delayed her errand no longer, but rose with the dawn the following day and was waiting early at the castle gates. On being questioned by the soldiers, she said she had come to seek King Ironheart. They asked who she was, and she answered them truthfully that she was Yvonne, the Beggar Princess. "A beggar princess!" exclaimed the soldiers in derision. "Who ever before heard of a princess without gold?" "This gold I have about me," replied the princess, and she unbound her golden hair. In the morning sun it shone brilliantly and dazzled the eyes of King Ironheart, who leaned from his balcony to learn the cause of the sudden bright light. He saw the princess standing at the gate and commanded that she be brought before him. As she entered the throne room, though she had not feared her father's wrath and was not afraid to walk alone at midnight in the forest, the princess was seized with a sudden fear that left her almost speechless. It was not that King Ironheart was hideous as monsters are often hideous, nor was he misshapen, but beneath his smile there lurked such cruelty and malice that she feared her cause was lost before she had begun to plead it. The thought of Godfrey lying in his dungeon stirred her, and she asked leave of his majesty to sing. King Ironheart was pleased with her request and graciously ordered his chief harpist to play the airs for Yvonne. At the end of the entertainment, The king's servants brought handsome robes and gifts of gold for the singer, whom the king mistook for some peasant maiden. The princess refused his gifts with dignity. "My lord," said she, "I may not receive gifts from you, for my rank is equal to your own. I am Yvonne, the beggar princess." "Then so much the better," replied the king in a hearty tone. "I have long wished for a princess whom my heart could love, and who would not fall a trembling at the very sight of me. We shall be married at once, and I will make war on your sisters this very day, to recover the marriage portion which is yours by all rights." He sent then for the coronation robes and the crown of pearls, but again the princess waved away the bearer of his gifts. With her singing, courage had returned, and she now faced the tyrant king bravely. "My lord," said she, "I have come hither not to wed you, but to beg you to leave the Westland Kingdom, for the people suffer greatly because of your harsh rule, and to implore you to free from his dungeon Prince Godfrey, whom I love with all my heart." King Ironheart was amazed that she should dare to oppose his wishes, but secretly he admired her courage and fearless spirit, and determined to win her for himself. He promised her great riches and vowed to make her the most powerful queen in all the world. But Yvonne was firm. When he saw it was useless to urge her, King Ironheart grew angry. "And what powerful weapon or armed force do you bring against me, that I should thus do your bidding, O Yvonne, beggar princess?" he asked at length in sneering tones. "None but courage and a good heart, my lord, and those can work miracles," replied the princess. "Then," said King Ironheart, "if by miracles you hope to accomplish your quest, perform to my liking the task I now set for you, and when it is finished, I shall leave this kingdom and free Godfrey from his dungeon." He called a servant and directed him to bring from the pantry a handful of corn, and when it was brought, he gave it to the princess. "When it is spring, plant these kernels, and in harvest time, if from your planting I do not gather corn to fill to the overflowing every granary in the Westland Kingdom, I will enslave you with the rest of this land, and Prince Godfrey shall remain in his dungeon until death come to free him. Now go," commanded King Ironheart, "and return no more until your task be done." The women who awaited the princess in the marketplace sighed when they learned the task King Ironheart had set. From one scant handful of corn to fill every granary in the Westland Kingdom, it was impossible. Even Yvonne found it hard to keep a good heart with the thought of the task before her. If she failed, Prince Godfrey would remain forever in his dungeon, and yet from one handful of corn, how should she reap a harvest for a nation? She tied the corn in a kerchief and carried it next her heart, lest some of the precious grains should slip away. Each night she counted them, and each night she rejoiced to find she still had 100, the exact number King Ironheart had given her. From her work at the farm, the princess knew well the labor of the fields and dairy, so she toiled the winter through with the other women. One evening, as she sat in the moonlight counting her precious grains, she heard voices nearby, but a hedge hid the speakers. "Ah," said the first voice sadly, "that 100 provinces, the fairest this side of paradise, should be so crushed beneath this cruel King Ironheart. I would that he were driven away, and that the good Prince Godfrey would return to his own once again." "Have patience," answered a second voice, which was exceedingly sweet and gentle. "Know that for the space of the winter months, the Princess Yvonne hath carried next her heart 100 grains of corn from which the cruel Ironheart hath commanded her to reap a harvest for the nation. Now such is the power of a good heart, that when she hath planted these grains, there will spring from them such a harvest as never before was gathered in any country. Then, according to his promise, King Ironheart will free Prince Godfrey and quit the Westland Kingdom forever." The voices ceased suddenly as they had begun, but on looking over the hedge, the princess could see no one. She treasured the words she had heard, and with a song in her heart, waited until the winter should be gone. When spring was come at last, she travelled with it through the Westland Kingdom, and planted a single grain in the centre of each province until her kerchief was empty. It seemed that the land itself was weary of the cruel Ironheart, and longed once more for peace and happiness, for such a supply of corn was never known in the Westland Kingdom. In autumn, when it was gathered into the granaries, there was more than they could hold, and the king's servants built storehouses to contain the surplus. Then the princess went to King Ironheart to tell him that her task was done. He had heard of the wonder from his ministers, and had waiting for her another task. The first, he now declared, had been but child's play, and he vowed to free Prince Godfrey when she should accomplish the second. "But, my lord, how can I believe you?" cried the princess in dismay. "Even should I accomplish the second task, when it is done, will you not set for me another and another, and so on until the end of time?" "Never fear, Yvonne, Beggar Princess," replied King Ironheart with his cruel smile. "This time I will keep my word right gladly. Though I set Godfrey free 1,000 times, he will never marry you, for should you accomplish this second task, you will be the ugliest woman in all the world. Think twice before you set about it," he warned. "If you fail, you will be enslaved for the rest of your life, and if you succeed, you will be hideous. Now, you had best marry me and give up this silly thing you call true love. It hath brought you naught but tears and sorrow in the past, and will bring you no better in the future." He smiled and looked graciously at Yvonne, but she was unmoved. "Because I loved Prince Godfrey, I defied my father and became the beggar Prince Yvonne," she answered scornfully. "And because I loved Prince Godfrey, I came to his land to beg his freedom of you, who hold him in cruel captivity. How then should I wed you? Tell me what it is that you would have me do. I care not whether I return from my task the ugliest woman in all the world." "Then listen well to what I say," replied the king, "for I shall not tell you twice. My kingdom, which lies just beyond the borders of the Westland Kingdom, is naught but a great desert plain. There are on this plain neither rivers nor springs, but instead the wind blows the sand in clouds above it all day long, and nothing will grow in such a place. Seek this plain, and when you have found it, cause springs and rivers to water it, the better to nourish a forest which you must plant there to please me. In the heart of this forest build for me a splendid palace, the outer walls of whitest marble, and the inner walls of purest gold. Thousands of red roses must climb to the towers of the palace. When you have done thus much, trouble not yourself to furnish it for me, but return to me, and I promise that I shall betake myself and my court to my own kingdom and quit this land forever and ever. I am weary of a people who smile never, but weep from sun to sun for their absent lord." "But Prince Godfrey, what of him?" asked the princess. "Ah," laughed King Ironheart, "I shall tell you also the secret charm that will cause his chains to fall from him and his dungeon doors to open wide." He bade the princess farewell, and his smile was more cruel than she had yet seen it. Nevertheless, she departed from his presence full of courage. The women were again waiting her in the marketplace, and when they heard the second task, they despaired of seeing again their rightful lord, and sadly resigned themselves to their fate. They followed the princess to the gates of the kingdom, and as she was about to depart, an old wise woman gave her a bag, saying, "Within this bag are pine cones and acorns of marvelous power. When you have caused the first springs to water the desert plain, at nightfall dip these into the waters, plant them, and by morning a forest of oak and pine will spring from them." The princess took the bag and thanked the wise woman. Strange to say, she was hopeful about her task. Who can tell, thought she, one task that seemed at first impossible, I have already finished. So she sang cheerfully as she went her way. In her mind, she pictured the delight and joy of Prince Godfrey when she should go again to the mill in the forest to tell him that he was free. For 3 days and 3 nights she travelled, and on the morning of the 4th day she reached the great desert plain. It was even more desolate than King Ironheart had said. Great stretches of burning hot sand spread far and wide, and the sky, where it bent down at the horizon, seemed copper-coloured. The blazing sun beat fiercely over all, and there was neither bush nor tree for shade. When the sun set, darkness came swiftly, and without the grey softening shades of twilight. The princess sat sadly and watched the stars come out. In the deep blue sky above the desert they shone like gold. Their happy gleaming seems to mock the heart of one as sad as I, sighed she. Now that she was upon the desert plain, she wondered how or where she was to begin King Ironheart's task. "The gleaming stars mock no one," said a voice close beside her, "but instead they shine brightly to cheer all those who sorrow." The princess turned to see the speaker, but she was alone on the plain. "I am the spirit you heard by the hedge one moonlit night," spoke the voice again. "Do you remember?" "I remember well," replied Yvonne, "and oh, spirit, had the cruel Ironheart kept his promise, Godfrey would even now be free of his dungeon. But alas, the wicked king hath set me still another task." "It is to help you with that task that I have come," said the spirit. "Each night when the stars begin to shine in the heavens, expect me until your task be done. And now to begin as the king commanded. I must have the blue from your eyes to make the rivers and lakes." "The blue from my eyes?" cried the princess in dismay. "Truly the cruel Ironheart hath said it rightly. I shall be the ugliest woman alive, but it is to free my beloved Godfrey, so take it, spirit." She felt a movement of the air close beside her, and an invisible hand was drawn across her eyelids. At the same moment she heard the singing of a brook nearby, and in the distance the roaring of a waterfall. Remembering the wise woman's advice, Yvonne dipped the acorns and pine cones in the brook and planted them in the desert sand before she slept. In the morning she awoke in a wilderness of forest, and the plain, no longer barren and desolate, was alive with birds that sang and wild deer that ran among the trees. The princess sought the heart of this forest, and there, when night had come, she awaited the spirit. When the stars began to shine, it came as it had promised. "The outer walls of the palace must be of whitest marble," said the spirit, "and for that I must have the whiteness of your neck and throat." Though the princess shuddered, she consented, and the invisible hand was passed over her neck and throat. No sooner had it done so than in the open space among the trees she could see the outlines of a great building whose walls gleamed in the moonlight. "And now," continued the spirit, If you have no wish to wander through this forest of oak and pine, but long instead to have done with your task, give me at once the gold of your hair and the red from your lips, that I may finish the inner walls of the palace and cause thousands of red roses to climb to the towers. The sooner I finish my task, the sooner will King Ironheart free Godfrey from his dungeon," replied the princess. "While he lies in chains, the red of my lips and the gold of my hair bring me no pleasure. So take them quickly, spirit." The same hand was passed over her hair and her lips, and the spirit spoke again. "Now look at the palace to see that it is all King Ironheart desired," it said. "Then, when you are satisfied, we shall start at once to tell him that your task is done. I shall remain with you to cheer you until you go again to the mill in the forest." Yvonne did as the spirit bid. She found the palace of great splendor, and myriads of red roses blossomed over its white marble walls. Within all was bright as day. The golden walls glittered like 1,000 suns. "Even the tyrant Ironheart could ask no more," said she. "Lead the way, spirit, and I shall tell him that I have finished my task." Traveling by a short road known only to the spirit, the princess reached the Westland Kingdom the next day, and was on her way to the castle when the women went down to the fields to work. They regarded Yvonne as one they had never seen before, and she was puzzled for the reason. "Alas," cried the spirit sadly, "you are fair of face no longer, Yvonne. They do not know that they have ever seen you before." Then straight past the guards and into the presence of King Ironheart the spirit led her. King Ironheart cried out in fury as a princess entered the throne room. "Old crone," he exclaimed, "how dare you to come into my presence? Do you not know I cannot abide old age or ugliness? You shall be punished." "Old age," echoed the princess. "I am not old. I am Yvonne, the beggar princess, whom you bid turn the desert plain into a wilderness of forest and build therein a splendid palace for you." Then the cruel king laughed heartily. "Never," cried he, "have I been so diverted. Go at once to the mill in the forest where the sun rises, O Yvonne, beggar princess, and at the very sight of you the walls will fall. Tell Prince Godfrey that I have departed his land and have betaken myself and soldiers to the splendid palace which you so kindly built for me. However, let me first reward you with this gift." Before the princess was aware, he had flashed a mirror before her face. Yvonne gazed spellbound as she beheld her changed image. "Oh," cried she, "you are more cruel than I had even supposed. But for you, I had never known how hideous I have become. Truly, I am the ugliest woman in all the world." She wept and covered her face that she might look no more in the mirror, which King Ironheart continued to hold before her gaze. The spirit, with pitying words, led her from the castle and tried to comfort her. But at the sight of her changed image, Yvonne's courage had fled. Even when the glad shouts of the Westland people told her that Ironheart was departing the kingdom, she did not smile. She wept all the way as she journeyed sadly to the forest where the sun rose. She now longed only to free Godfrey and then to die. "For," thought she, "though he be gallant enough to wed me in pity for my hideous countenance, I love him too dearly, and I could not bear that all the world should look with loathing on his queen." Late one night the princess entered the forest where she had gone so often to seek the herds, and at midnight she stood before the mill. It was dark and dreary looking as ever, and no sign nor sound of life could be seen about it. Standing close to the window-like opening, she began to sing, Prince Godfrey, my beloved, I have come to set you free. The wicked Ironheart hath at last departed your land, and the Westland people await your return with all joy." She heard his voice from the dungeon beneath, and listened eagerly for his reply. "Oh, Yvonne," cried Prince Godfrey, "your voice is sad when it should be glad, for even now my chains have fallen from me, and I am hastening to the door of my prison unhindered." The mill sank into the ground, and Yvonne trembled with joy as she saw Prince Godfrey coming toward her. He passed her without a glance, and then returned to ask eagerly, "Old crone, hast seen aught of a beautiful princess who sang from this spot not a moment since?" Yvonne, seeing that he knew her not, pointed silently down a path, and away sped Godfrey. Then away sped Yvonne down another path, and ran until she found a hollow tree. There she crept in and laid her down to sleep. "Though Godfrey searched the whole night, he can never find me here," said Yvonne to herself. "Then, in the morning, I shall go to the farmer's wife and herd cows once again. None will be there to mock my ugly features, and since my beloved prince is freed at last, I am content." But though she spoke so to herself, it would seem otherwise, for Yvonne wept bitterly until at last she fell asleep. Meanwhile, Prince Godfrey shouted her name and searched the forest in vain. At last he sat to rest, and a voice beside him spoke. "You seek Yvonne, the beggar princess," said the voice. "I can take you to her if you so wish." "But I see no one," cried Godfrey in amazement. "Who is it that knows my secret thoughts thus?" "I am the spirit with which Yvonne set out to rid your land of the tyrant Ironheart, and with which she gave her beauty, that you might be freed of your prison. The old crone whom you passed in this forest was none other than Yvonne." Then the spirit recounted the tale of the trials and sufferings that Yvonne had borne. Godfrey listened with dismay. "And now," concluded the spirit, "fearing that you would feel bound to wed her in spite of her changed face and hideous features, Yvonne has hidden herself in the hollow of a tree not far from this spot. Shall I lead you thither, Godfrey, or will you journey to the Westland Kingdom alone?" "Ah, spirit," cried Godfrey sadly, "I would have died within my dungeon rather than gain my freedom at such price. However, what is done, and no regret or vain repining may undo it. So lead me quickly, spirit, that I may tell Yvonne how I do honor and love her for her noble heart and courage." Now the spirit was pleased that Godfrey should speak so. Then, because it was a good spirit, and had no wish to see folk sad or unhappy, it resolved that these two mortals had suffered trials sufficient. So while the spirit guided Godfrey through the shadowy aisles of dusky cedars, it caused the earth to tremble mightily 3 times. Great crashes like those of thunder accompanied each tremor. Yvonne fled frightened from her hiding place and found herself face to face with Godfrey. At the sight of his beloved one, Godfrey knew no fears and cried out in delight and joy. "O Yvonne, the spirit did but try me," he exclaimed. "Thou art thrice as lovely as the dawn itself, which now appears in yonder sky." But Yvonne would not heed his words, and covered her face with her hands. Weeping and lamenting, she begged him to leave her. "Pray, do not mock me, Godfrey," she cried. "I cannot bear that you should see my face. Indeed, I am become the ugliest woman in all the world. Let me go as you love me." But for my fright at the violent trembling of the earth, I had remained safe hidden until you had departed for the Westland Kingdom. "Then but for the violent trembling of the earth, I had lost you forever," cried Godfrey. "So I blessed the one who sent the earthquake. Then you blessed me, and I am free at last to fly to paradise," said the spirit. "I cause the earth to tremble. I wish the tyrant Ironheart to cumber it no more." At the first tremor, in the forest of oak and pine, the ground opened wide in a great chasm. At the second tremor, the forest as well as the palace of King Ironheart were swallowed up in this great chasm. At the third tremor, the chasm closed itself, and there now is nothing in that spot but a hot, arid desert plain where the wind blows the sands about in clouds the whole day long. "Then King Ironheart is no more?" asked Prince Godfrey. "King Ironheart and all his wicked followers lie deep beneath this arid desert plain of which I tell," declared the spirit. "And now, Yvonne, to set your mind at rest, gaze into the pool at your feet." Yvonne gazed downward and there beheld an image so beautiful that she turned to see the fair maiden whom she fancied had peeped over her shoulder. The image of Godfrey smiling beside her assured her at last that it was her own face she saw, and Yvonne's joy knew no bounds. "Oh, spirit," she cried, "you have done many kind things for me, but this gift of beauty thou hast given me surpasses all. I am the happiest woman alive, for now I know I am worthy to be Godfrey's queen." "I did but give you what was yours, Yvonne," returned the spirit, "and now farewell, for soon the sun will rise and I am off to paradise." "But, spirit, will you not come with us to the Westland Kingdom?" begged Yvonne. "What shall we do without you to help us with our trials? Pray, stay." "Nay, Yvonne," replied the spirit, "continue in the way you have begun. Remember always, courage and a good heart can work miracles, and there will be no need of me. Farewell." "Farewell, farewell, spirit," called Godfrey and Yvonne together. Then as the sun rose from the clouds, they heard an answering echo of farewell. So singing for joy, hand in hand, Prince Godfrey and Yvonne the beggar princess followed the sun on his journey to the Westland Kingdom, where they lived forever after, and where, to this very day, 'tis said by some that their descendants reign. End of section 13. Recording by Sim.